Okay, we're going to be working on page 2 of your tools packet. If you don't have this out already, please pause and flip to page 2 until you see this slope-intercept form page. All right, so when we move on, particularly after break, we're going to be talking about different forms of a line. And all that means is that there are different organizations of your y, your x, your slope, and the other numbers that are involved. I want to talk a little bit about this slope-intercept form title. This particular form is called slope-intercept form. It is the most popular form of a line. Most of your families will remember this from their own high school algebra class. It is the easiest to use and the easiest to create. So when you're being asked to create the equation of a line, they're generally talking about creating an equation in this particular form. So I want to talk about the name of it because it's got some hints in it. Slope-intercept form begins with slope. In order to create this equation, you must have information that can help you get the slope. So I'm going to highlight my M in yellow. Just going to go over that. You can do the same thing. We used yellow yesterday as well. You need your slope to be able to create slope-intercept form. And there's a couple ways that you can do that are presented here to remind you. If you follow this down, if you need the slope, you can look at a graph to find the slope. And the way that you do that is you find what they call your rise over run, but what we have been calling and what we know as your change in y over your change in x. Those two things, rise over run and change in y over change in x, really mean the same thing. And the way that you do that is you focus in, right, on 2 dots on the graph. This is all in your slope packet. Focus in on 2 dots on the graph, and you count how long it takes you to move up for your change in y, how many boxes it takes you to move up, that's your change in y, and then how many boxes it takes to move over, and that's your change in x. We practiced that. If you didn't do that video, you should go back and do that. Another way that you can find slope from 2 points is with the slope formula. That slope formula is something you need to see because it is featured on your MCA formula sheet. But what it's really asking you to do is to do the same thing that we always have done, which is to take the 2 points that you have, put them into a table with your x values on the left and your y values on the right, and find your change in x and find your change in y. The formula you see here gives you the same results as doing this. It's just written differently, but you should know what it means because it does, it will appear on a lot of formula sheets that you'll get. So back to the slope-intercept form. In order to create this form of a line, which you will do today, you need to be able to find the slope. Today, you're going to be doing work on the graph. You're going to have to be able to find the slope on a graph. You also will always have to include y as part of your equation. Okay, there's always a y in your equation unless you have some of the weird special cases, and we'll see those later. And you always need to have an x in your equation. Those are letters, and they're usually always letters in your equation. The last thing will require your green highlighter now, or your green pencil. We have this new thing called b. b is the part of the equation that is called the intercept. When they talk about slope-intercept form, the intercept is b. And we're going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in on this graph over here, and we're going to talk about what an intercept is. An intercept, a y-intercept, which is the one that we are concerned with, is the point where the y value, where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, this is something you'll get really familiar with. It seems silly now, but you'll get really familiar with it because we're going to do it many, many times. And what you'll do then is find the coordinates of this point right here where the graphed line that's going diagonally crosses the y-axis. That is called the y-intercept. You can make yourself a little arrow. It's called the y-intercept, where the line intercepts the y. Okay. And the coordinates of this point, if you go to the origin, it goes over left or right 0, right? Whoops. And it goes down -1, -2. So the coordinates for this point are 0, -2. Okay. The coordinates for a y-intercept always have an x value of 0 because a y-intercept has to be the point where you do not move left or right at all, right, to get there, and you're only going up or down. So our coordinate is over 0, down -2. Our y-intercept that we would put into the equation would be the -2. Okay. Now, because we know that the y-intercept always has an x-coordinate of 0, and we know that because we are looking for a point on the line that is right on the axis, you can also find the y-intercept on a table. Right here, we've got the point where x is 0, which means it's definitely located on the y-axis. And our y-intercept we would put into the equation would be -2. Just like what you see featured up here. Over 0, down -2, over 0, down -2. Now that you've got those notes, we're going to jump to your assignment and we're going to put all these pieces together and show you how easy it is to write an equation that represents a line.